It's Monday. We're back on the grind, but that does mean a new episode of Hornets Daily is coming at you. Welcome in to your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, we're presented by the good people over at FanArc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you know by now you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for joining us out there, watching along with us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comments section. You know how much we enjoy watching you guys interact, hearing some of your thoughts on what's going on the program as we continue to grow and build this family here on the Hornets Daily Show. Hope everybody had a safe and enjoyable weekend out there. Again, it is still a bit of a slow time here in the NBA. Not a lot going on over the weekend, but there is a few things buzzing around on the docket for today's show. Someone we talked about a good bit last week, even mentioned him on Friday's show, Sion James. We're going to talk a little bit more about his role. Is he going to play a bigger role than originally expected coming up this season? And we've also mentioned Miles Bridges quite a few times this summer. This is going to be a make or break year for him in 2025-26. What does that mean for what he needs to do to continue to show the Hornets that he belongs on this roster and it's not time to maybe move on from Miles? We'll talk about that today as well. LaMelo Ball has received an unfriendly comparison in the last few days over last week, as a matter of fact. We'll talk a little bit about that and see who he has been compared to. And then an analyst has yet again given a negative review of the Hornets roster. This one kind of repopped up, resurfaced back around over the weekend, so we'll talk about that as well, wrapping up the show today. You know, we don't do beating around the bush here on Hornets Daily. We like to dive headfirst right into the program, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. Now, we talked about Sion James a good bit last week. We've talked a lot about all of the rookies most of the summer, but Sion James was pretty heavily featured last week. He's probably the one we've talked about the least amount before last week, of course, and it's starting to come to light that he may actually end up playing or need to play a bigger role this season than we thought. If you remember, I said last week that it felt like when he was drafted, or as we have gotten through the summer league now, that Sion was probably going to play the least sizable role of all the rookies. It could maybe Ryan Kalkbrenner, but as I've said back on the show a week ago or so, it is likely that Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to have to play a big role just out of need or force, or have to, because of how thin the center position is on the roster so far. So that's why I thought Sion may have a lesser impactful role than a Kalkbrenner or McNeely. Definitely Concanipple, because we know what we expect out of him. But it is starting to gain some legs, starting to pick up some steam, that maybe Sion is going to play a bigger role than we originally expected. It might not be the case that he is just kind of an end-of-the-bench guy who comes in and grabs some minutes when available. It now starting to pick up like he may actually have a spot in the rotation. As we know, there's still a lot of roster moves to be made. Still have to get that number down to 15, but Sion is not going to be one of the guys moved on from. He's not going anywhere. One of this year's second-round draft picks. The Hornets are excited to see what they can get out of him. So as we get closer to the final roster decisions being made, preseason and training camp right around the corner, and we start to take a little closer look at the roster, at the rotation, at who's going to play with who's going to be on the court when. It looks actually like it's starting to make some sense that Sion James may play a bit of a heavier role than, like I said, was expected on draft night. We know that Charlotte struggled mightily on offense last year, specifically from three-point land, from shooting the basketball. They have upgraded significantly on the offensive end of the floor, whether it be Colin Sexton, who comes in as a career 18 points per game guy, Spencer Dinwiddie, who can get you double figures off the bench, any of the rookies, Concanipple, Liam McNeely. Kalkbrenner can shoot. Sion James, no offensive slouch either. The Hornets have upgraded pretty heavily on that side of the ball. As also, if you want to talk about the in-house development, I think that Tajon Salon is going to have a much better offensive year. KJ Simpson, you know how much I love him. This is a KJ Simpson podcast. And then I think Moussa Diabate is going to take that next step offensively as well. So the Hornets have done what's necessary to upgrade the offensive end of the floor And if they decide to lean heavily on some of their more offensive-friendly lineups, for example, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Colin Sexton, if that is a three-way rotation they decide to lean heavily into, then maybe having a guy like Sion James on the floor with them at that same time does start to make sense just because of his ability to play on the defensive end of the floor. He's already, I know we haven't seen him play yet in an actual NBA game, but there's a good chance he's already a top 3 or 4 defender on the Hornets team as it stands right now. He's also, as I mentioned, no slouch shooting the basketball. He shot 41% off the catch and shoot at Duke last season. So if he can keep those numbers up, then there would really be no drop off in production offensively when he's on the floor. Now playing with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Colin Sexton would make the Hornets a little bit smaller, but Sion's 6'6", 220 frame with really long arms and freakish athletic ability would allow for him to guard up at the 4 if need be. Brandon Miller also has that capability. So it wouldn't be and the Hornets they're not by any means world beaters on the defensive end of the floor anyway, so it wouldn't be that drastic of a drop-off defensively compared to what the other options would be if Sion James was not on the floor with those 4 in terms of interior defense. Perimeter defense, it would take a massive leap forward, which is why Sion would be on the floor anyway. He also could be an anchor for the second unit if he's on the floor with some of the second unit guys like Spencer Dinwiddie or KJ Simpson, Trey Mann. If he's out there with some guards like that, he could be an anchor defensively for those guys as well. And then I mentioned his ability to shoot and catch and shoot. He shot 41% at Duke last year, so he is a legitimate 3-and-D threat as well, and he is good with the ball in his hands. He knows how to get to the basket and shoots a pretty good percentage from the free throw line. So there is offensive possibilities there, and of course he's only going to continue to get better on that end of the floor as he develops and grows in the NBA, in his NBA game. So it's starting, like I say, it's starting to pick up some steam. It's starting to sound like from inside the building, from the NBA writers and analysts out there, that Sion James may actually play a much bigger role with this Hornets team this season than originally expected. And if that's the case, then he's certainly going to be considered an important piece going forward as well, which just shows that Jeff Peterson could potentially have gotten another victory on draft night with the Hornets getting Sion James in the second round, especially if McNeely, Kalkbrenner, and Knipple all pan out the way we hope they will as well. Now, we mentioned that this was, we've talked about Miles Bridges. We're going to switch topics here. We've talked about Miles Bridges quite a bit in the last recent days. He's been a heavy discussion. He's been a consistently discussed topic all summer long. And the main point when talking about Miles Bridges is how crucial, how important, how much of a, quote, make or break season this is going to be for Miles coming into 25 and 26. We know he struggled the last few years to get back to his peak numbers of 2021 when he was at his best. And then that's not every category, of course, but it is in terms of scoring efficiency specifically and shooting the basketball. That was his peak numbers there. That's when he was really at his best, and he's yet to get back there. And now it's starting to seem like there are guys in Charlotte behind him at that number 4 position who can put pressure on him and kind of challenge his job if he is needed, if it is decided that he needs to be replaced and things don't go at the beginning of this season. He gets off to kind of a slow start to this regular season. We know that Miles has been mentioned countless times, not just this summer, but in the past several years, as a trade piece for the Hornets. He does have a lot of value. He's still, even right now, he's still in his prime. He's coming off his second highest scoring average of his career at 20 points per game last season. But as I mentioned, he's also coming off a career low in three-point shooting percentage, which is a massive part of Charles Lee's offense. So he's going to need to kick that up a notch if he wants to contribute the way that Charles Lee really needs him to, or really would prefer him to. He's going to need to start shooting better from the three-point line. It's also starting to feel a little more this summer like Charlotte is much more serious when it comes to talking about Miles as a trade piece. We've talked about the not the desire, but the based upon actions it's evident that the Hornets are trying to get younger. And again, Miles Bridges is going to be 28 years old. Again, that's not old by any means, but compared to the rest of the roster, it's not young either. And so with a guy scoring 20 points per game and being dead in his prime, there is still quite a bit of value in Miles Bridges. So if that is the route the Hornets decide to go, then there is some value going to come back to them in return for Miles Bridges, which could benefit them going forwards in the future, which is kind of the plan that Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee have been laying out for us since they have come into Charlotte and taken over both as the head coach and in the front office. Now, Miles' defense is also a struggle point. He's more than capable on the perimeter. He's athletic enough to keep guys in front of him, especially the bigger guys who are playing the 4, but he is also always undersized, listed at just like 6'5", maybe 6'6". Miles Bridges is often drastically undersized in the paint, and he struggles on that that area of the defensive realm as well. He's not the best inside defender. He gives up just over 56% shooting, or was giving up just over 56% shooting from inside of 6 feet last year on the defensive end. So that is another spot that he struggles with. And there are guys who the Hornets have now brought in who may be better suited to play that interior defensive position at the 4. And when Grant Williams comes back, the list of players who could put pressure on Miles Bridges grows even longer. So that it is going to be important for him to come out of the gate and get off to a hot start if he wants to stick around in Charlotte, if he wants to continue to show this team, this front office, that he is a contributor, is going to be part of the building process going forward. He can be really a fourth guy to that Colin Sexton, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball group of 3 that we were mentioning earlier. If he can be a fourth contributor there when he's on the floor with them, that would be a big step forward. That would be a reason for the Hornets to continue with Miles Bridges on the team and continue to have him as a piece along with the rest of this young core going forwards. Now, we mentioned the other players behind him that could put some pressure on him. I think that is ultimately what's going to happen. I think Sion James is going to continue to improve, and he's going to shine coming out of the gate. Training camp, preseason, I think James is going to look good, continue kind of on the trajectory he was when he played in the Summer League, averaging a double-double in the 2 games he played out in Las Vegas. I don't think he's going to drop off from that. I think that is what we're going to see consistently from James now, who's going to really put some pressure on Miles Bridges again because he is a little more capable on the defensive end at the power forward position. If Ryan Kalkbrenner comes out and shows he's competent and he has the ability to play some more bigger minutes at the center position, which would allow Moussa Diabate to drop down to the 4 more often than what we think right now, that would also put pressure on Miles Bridges, because I think that he is that too. Diabate playing at the 4 would be a little better suited, and then Miles wouldn't really have a place to go. He could, of course, play some 3 when Khan or Brandon Miller are taking a break, but if James and Diabate and Kalkbrenner, if all of those guys do develop into useful contributors, guys who are playing big minutes for this team, then I think that could put pressure on Miles Bridges as well. So I guess what I'm saying is that I'm in agreement with everyone that this is going to be a vital year. This is a make or break season for Miles Bridges, but I'm not sure he gets the whole season. I think if he comes out with a slow start, if he comes out again struggling to score efficiently, struggling to shoot from beyond the arc, then I think it may be a make or break before the trade deadline for Miles Bridges. I think that's more the time frame for the Hornets to make their decision on if they want to move on from him or if they want to continue to use him as a piece to go along with the young core they are building with. That's going to be something to keep an eye on as we start the season off very soon. As a matter of fact, not much more than a month away from the kickoff of regular season. That'll be something fun to keep an eye on with Miles Bridges. Now, you guys know that it would not be an episode of Hornets Daily if we didn't talk about our favorite Hornet, LaMelo Ball. And today, some more unfriendly news to discuss with the Hornets' young star. He's received an unfriendly comparison from Tim Bontemps on the Hoop Collective in a similar in an episode where they discussed the Hornets last week, they brought up LaMelo Ball as well, as most talking heads do when they discuss the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo is a big topic of conversation, but an unfortunate comparison from Bon Tips, he has likened LaMelo Ball to Zion Williamson, and that is not in a complimentary way at all. It's obvious why they have been connected, though. Zion, obviously a very injury-prone player, has not played more than 50 games in quite some time in his career. LaMelo Ball averaging under 50 games per season as well. That is why Bontemps made the comparison. Both superstars, both big names, huge draws when they are on the court and extremely exciting to watch. We know that there's no lack of talent. This is not a knock on their basketball capabilities. It's just that both of them are over 5 years into their career, and neither of them are averaging more than 50 games per season played, which is not good for a star player, for your best player, which Zion would be considered on his team, as well. LaMelo is on the Hornets. Now, if you remember earlier in the summer, Zion was linked to the Hornets in a few of the more extreme rumor mill talks that we did here. Zion was linked to being a potential trade target for the Hornets, and this right here, if you remember, this comparison right here is exactly why I was down on that from the beginning. I didn't really even want to entertain those rumor mills, those hypotheticals, because the Hornets already have an extremely injury-prone guy, and if LaMelo wasn't a part of that package that brought Zion in, they would just be adding another, and that right now is not what Charlotte needs to continue to build to the future they're looking for. Now, as much as we talk about all of this with LaMelo, of course, it is a constant conversation piece. Can he stay healthy? Will he play a lot of games? Can he do this? Yada, yada, yada. We talk about it all the time, and I know, as annoying as it gets, saying that he's got to stay healthy, it unfortunately is true, and it will not change until we see LaMelo play a whole year where he stays consistently healthy. I think a few of you guys in the chat have said that it was probably 55, 60 games, maybe 62 to 65, somewhere in there, to consider a good, relatively healthy season from LaMelo. So there, he's got to get to that benchmarking and until he does get to those types of numbers, it is going to continue to be a topic of conversation. His health, can he stay healthy? Will he stay healthy? The good news in regards to that, especially, and the biggest difference in between him and Zion, in my opinion, the biggest reason that I don't think they should be really compared at all, is LaMelo seems much more committed to working on his body, to staying in the gym, to getting healthy and keeping himself healthy, doing what he needs to do to stay on the floor and not have those injuries pop up and flare up. He seems to be doing much more cognizant of those things than Zion is now or really ever was, which is a good thing. And again, the biggest difference between the two, in my opinion, is that LaMelo seems to be putting forth the effort and genuine care about keeping up with his body and keeping himself healthy going forwards into this season. I think he is kind of optimistic about the new pieces that he has around him. He seems to be building a good relationship with the young guys, with Colin Sexton, throughout this offseason, so that too could be a big reason why he is taking such a bigger role in keeping himself healthy and doing what he needs to do for his body. Now, as we have mentioned, we'll change topics again. We'll talk about the Hornets roster. There's an analyst out there who has given another unfriendly review of the Hornets starting lineup. Grant Hughes, he really hasn't said anything positive about the Hornets all summer. And if you remember, he gave them an overall D grade for their roster and their starting lineup a few weeks ago, and that article, that roster grade has started to surface. It's made its way back across people's screens and into their view, and it's come up again over the weekend. Now, if you remember correctly, most of the criticism is nothing we haven't heard from everybody else all offseason. LaMelo can't stay healthy. We just talked about that. Brandon Miller might not be able to stay healthy either. He's coming off that wrist injury. And there is no plan at the center position. Those were Hughes' major criticisms when this article popped up the first time. They obviously have not changed since then. And as you know, my thoughts on all of those topics are very public. They're out there on this show. I've talked about them many times But the one thing that I have been fighting a lot harder on recently in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so is the no center plan argument. I think that is incorrect. I have decided, as you guys know, I've been convinced. I've seen enough to where I am a Moussa Diabate guy. I'm ready to go all in on him being able to be a starting center in the NBA. I'm ready to go and say he's going to be the answer at that position for this season and probably and hopefully going forward. I think I'm ready to take that leap as well, but I definitely think he'll be enough for this season for the Hornets to show the improvement that they're trying that we're all hoping they show. I think he's going to be enough, honestly, to get them to help get them to that 30-win mark and crack that threshold as well. We know that Diabate is a fantastic rebounder. He is a top-tier rebounder in the NBA already and really only going to continue to improve in that area as well. I think his length and his athleticism make him more than capable on the defensive end, both on the perimeter and inside in the paint, despite being undersized some nights at the center position. I think his length and his athleticism can make up for that relatively easy. And I truly, truly, truly believe that he is going to take not just the next step, but I think he's going to take leaps and bounds forwards on the offensive end of the floor. The floor is going to be a lot more open this year. LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Colin Sexton, all of those guys are going to create more space, and they're also elite passers, so they can find Moussa as he gets better at finding his spots that are open to score easily. He's also been working on his jump shot this offseason, and I think that's really going to show itself when he's on the floor as well. So I think that's my biggest argument, my biggest gripe against all of these roster breakdowns, all of the negative reviews that the Hornets keep getting, is that there is no center, there is no plan. And from the outside, I see that, I can understand it, but my fight back against that is I genuinely think that Moussa is going to be the guy. I think he's going to continue to develop and work his way into that starting center role. I think that this also honestly feels like a year for LaMelo to continue, or for not to continue, but to stay healthy and stay on the court for the duration of the season, and most of that is due to the fact that he doesn't have to play every minute of every game. He doesn't have to feel like he's the only answer. The guys behind him coming off the bench are now more than capable. It's a very full guard room, so he can cut down on some of his minutes and allow for him to stay healthier longer, stay fresher later into the season, which is going to benefit not only him but everybody else on the floor around him. And I'm not sitting here saying that with the Hornets roster that they have, they're a contender or going to make the finals or any of this kind of thing. I don't really even think they're going to be labeled or considered a contender in the East. But I do think that they're far, far ahead of the bottom of the league, and giving them grades like a D or comparing them to the bottom 5 teams, the more bottom tier teams who are visibly in either disarray or in a further, not as far along in their rebuild as the Hornets are. I don't think it's fair to compare them to teams like that at this point. But again, we're going to have to wait until they show everyone else that it's not just going to be people like me talking about it that gets it proven. It's going to be the Hornets play on the court this season, and I think they're more than capable of showing that major improvement is coming, is on the way. And throughout this regular season, again, I think they're going to be a much improved team. I think the 30-win threshold is something that is gettable, and the Hornets will be able to crack that number and can, like I say, and improve going forward into next year as well. But that's something we're going to have to wait and see. Again, just under a month, or just over a month, until the regular season actually kicks off. So basketball is right around the corner. But that's going to do it for today's show, folks. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comments section, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for another episode of Hornets.